Hello and welcome back to another video. Before I get started, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and then also feel free to check out any of the other videos that I've done. So for today, it's gonna be a long talk, or long-ish talk. So I want to separate it into different segments, just so it doesn't get all confusing and like it'll make better sense that way. Okay, so first I want to address the Black Lives Matter movement. And so, I guess I want to talk more about its importance. And it's an important movement because Black people for decades, for centuries, have been oppressed. And if you don't know what oppressed is or oppression, look up the definition of oppression or oppressed, so you know what the term means, because the term is very important. And so because of this oppression, Black Americans have not been given the resources that they need, education that they need, money that their community needs. They have not been given the same opportunities as every other American. And aside from that, they face a lot of racism, which ends up affecting their health and things like that. And, all this has been going on for so long that I feel like, in a sense, it has become a norm. And so, people either forget it's a problem, don't care that it's a problem, and this issue comes back every time we lose an innocent Black life. And every time we lose one, we're like, hey, look at all these injustices that are happening. Look at how policemen are abusing their power and things like that. And that's why I think this movement is super important, to create awareness that racism still goes on, that Black people are still not treated equally as everyone else, and they're still not given equal opportunities and equal resources and things like that. And so we need to address all the issues in the Black community so we can start bringing change. And we need to address the injustices that cops have been involved with, and killing innocent Black men, or Black men and women. It's not fair, and it needs to stop. And so that's why this Black Matters movement is important. And of course, please feel free to educate me more on it. Feel free to attach resources in the comments if you know of anything that could help people get a better understanding of this movement and its importance. And so I guess I want to start off with talking about my own experience first. So I am a minority. I am brown, not necessarily because I'm pretty white, but and so with that said, I have faced a lot of the barriers that minorities face, growing up in a low-income family, growing up in neighborhoods that, are not so great. They do have quite a bit of violence. And with that, I have felt some of the barriers of being a minority and being low income. However, I do consider myself privileged in the sense that now I have a college degree. I had the opportunity to finish high school and go to college. And because of the color of my skin, maybe, or because of the environments that I'm in, actually I don't even know, but I haven't experienced racism, and I don't experience it in my everyday life. And maybe I'm just naive, maybe it passed my head, and I didn't realize there was any racism. But sitting down and thinking about it, I don't think I have experienced much racism. I can only think of one instance where I had started going to school at Coe College. I went to Iowa, and there was one time I went to the mall, and I went to go get a cinnamon roll, and cinnamon roll or pretzels, something like that. Actually, I think it was pretzels. And the lady offered me a dipping sauce, but she said it really fast, and like I kind of like wasn't paying attention, and so I didn't hear her, and I was like, oh, what was that? And she's like, do you want a dipping sauce? Like, do you want vanilla or caramel? And like it caught me so off guard, because I was like, why did she say it like that? Like, and it was only the second, like she only had to repeat it a second time, so like I don't know why she was so like frustrated. And so like I figured that it was because I looked Mexican, and I was obviously in Iowa, and she was white, and like there you really stand out. And so like that did take me back, or like I stepped back and I was like, wait, what? Like, did she really just say that? And was it because of how I look? Other than that, I can't really think of any other time I experienced racism, and that is why I say I am privileged, because I don't have to experience that every day. Not how other darker minorities might, like whether you're a darker Hispanic or you're black. Like, I feel like they tend to experience more racism because of the color of their skin. And so, you know, I am going to use whatever privilege I do have towards fighting for the rights that they deserve, addressing that there needs to be changes, and, you know, I need my voice heard so that they can be helped. So I guess now more moving towards how my childhood and experiences growing up shaped my view of Black Americans. So growing up, I would hear, you know, my grandma talk about how one time she was mugged by a black person, or how another time she was followed by a black man. And so like these stories and that she would tell me, you know, to be careful and watch my surroundings and this and that. But like when the bad guy is always made to seem like it's a black person, it starts to paint a picture in your head that the bad guy looks like a black person, and you know, you start to think that all black people are bad. And you know, it sounds kind of dumb in a way, but like, because you're putting everyone in this group, like you're saying that every black person is bad, and you know, so I feel stupid to have ever thought that. But like when you're being raised with all these stories, that's the picture it paints in your head. And growing up, I lived on the south side, and like all the areas that were near us that were majority like black people, they always look so run down, like not pretty at all. Like there's a lot of empty lots, you know, it looked ugly. And so like you start to think that like that, again, stereotyping people, that all these black people live in bad areas, and there's a lot of violence, and they drug deal, and you know, everyone is just a bad person. And again, I know it sounds super dumb, but this was like my experience growing up. And you know, I don't want to talk too much also about like my family's personal business, because I don't think they want their business out there. But like I remember how mad my grandma got when she found out my aunt was having a baby, and she was somewhat young at the time, but I think the bigger problem was that she was having a baby by a black man. And there was so much tension in the family, and I was only a kid, and I remember that. And again, growing up as a kid, you don't really understand why, and you just know like, oh, she did something bad, she had a baby with a black man. Like, that's unacceptable or whatever. And so like you're starting to get trained at such a young age that like that black people are bad. And by all means, this is not what I think. Like, you know, this it was just how I guess my mindset was growing up. And it's not like that anymore. And going into high school was when, so growing up and going to school in elementary school, I think I only had one black classmate, and again, she was also, you know, very loud and not the brightest, but I never thought to think why she was like that. Like, maybe she never received any support at home. Maybe her mom never read to her, or maybe her mom never helped her with her homework, or maybe her mom was too busy working that she couldn't ever help her. Like, as a child, you never think of why they're like this. You just think like, oh, they're just dumb and they're just mean and loud and whatever. And so going into high school was where I met a more diverse group of students, and I had more black friends, and you know, I started to realize they were nothing like what I thought they were like. And I realized that they were funny, they were super smart, they were so talented, they were amazing people, and they're just like everyone else. And you know, I started feeling bad for ever thinking that they were all bad people, because they're not. They're just people. And you know, like I felt stupid. I was like, what the heck? Like, how could I have ever thought this? Like, this is so dumb. But many people never get this chance. They never get the chance to step out of their bubble, to step out of their communities and talk to others that are different from them, either that are like, for me, like, you know, I stepped out of my community, my Latino community, and I saw people who were Muslim, who were Asian, who were white, who were black. And, you know, I got to see how we have so many things in common. And, you know, they're just people. No matter, like, how they look on the outside, like, they were just people. But not everyone gets that opportunity. And that's why people, I feel like, are so closed-minded, and they just believe what they've been told, and that's it. And they don't want to, like, hear or see anything else. And as I continued to go on through college, you know, a lot of my classes would focus on different topics, but everything in terms of like race, in a sense. So like, you know, I was taught why minorities and why black people, you know, live the way they do, and it's because they're not given the proper resources. It's because no one believes in them to, you know, to go and give them money so they can go to high school or college. And they're always made feel like that they're less than, and there's just a lack of resources in these communities, in these minority communities. And, you know, I started to see why these communities look the way they did, why the communities that I grew up around look like this. And it's not our black folks' fault. It's not their fault. Instead, it's the people that are higher up for never funding them. For, like, what if the city would have just fixed their roads, put some parks in, some nice parks, fixed like all the empty lots, fixed all the rundown houses, and made it affordable for them, for like the people in the community, you know? What if they did that? Then these areas would have looked a lot nicer, instead of investing their money in communities that already have money, like Lincoln Park and Wicker Park, and giving them nicer, even nicer things than they already have. Like, they don't need more money. The ones who need money are these rundown communities that were never even given money in the first place, or at least not for a minute. And so, again, I learned a lot about the oppression that Black Americans faced here in the U.S., and it really opened my eyes. I guess now moving on to the next topic. So I would like to discuss now comparing all these different movements, I guess. And so there's a Black Lives Matter movement. Then apparently some people think that All Lives Matter is another movement. And then there's another group of the Blue Lives Matter. And it's silly because I think people are missing the point of the Black Lives Matter movement. The Black Lives Matter movement is to address the oppression, to address the injustices, and to bring equality. The All Lives Matter movement is made because other people feel bad that now they want to address Black people's problems, in a sense like that they're making everyone else feel less than. And that's not the case. Like, the case is to bring awareness that Black people in the US have been oppressed and that they have not been treated equally. So they need to be addressed. Their issues need to be addressed first. And I think people just end up getting mad that they're actually paying attention to Black people and they want to feel included now. But like, that's not the problem. You were always included, you know? Everyone else was always included. So the All Lives Matter, it's not a thing. It's not needed. Because you all don't have problems that need to be addressed right now. White people, you are not getting killed by cops. So what's the problem, you know? Asians, you're not being killed by cops. You know, every other race are not being killed by cops as much as Black people are being killed by cops. Everyone else is not feeling as much of the injustices and inequalities as much as Black minorities right now. And yeah, everyone else, you know, they do have some issues, like, you know, there are still health disparities among like Latinos and stuff, and, you know, problems we need to address. But that's not the issue right now, and, you know, that's something we have to work on and we'll get to. But like, the issue right now are, you know, we're losing Black lives, innocent Black lives. And the Blue Lives Matter movement, or whatever that is, it's also not a thing, because let's compare the two. Let's compare Black lives and blue lives. You don't choose to be Black. You're born Black. That's one. Blue lives, you choose to be a cop. You weren't born a cop. You chose to go into that field. That doesn't mean you deserve to get killed or you deserve anything bad in the world. No, like, that's not what that means. But like, just between color, you don't choose to be Black, but you choose to be blue. Blue lives have a lot of power. You have the power to kill someone if you want. You have a gun. You have the power to arrest people, to bring changes. You have all this power because you have a badge and because you are here to protect citizens, right? What power do Black lives have? They don't. They say something, they say they're getting killed by cops, and you don't want to believe them. You'll, you know, shove it under a rug. They don't have any power at all. Cops, they could get all the resources, money they want. What money and resources can Black people get? They are still facing a lot of inequalities. We are not funding their communities. We are not bringing them the resources that they need. These two groups, they're not the same thing. You don't need a Blue Lives Matter because they have privilege. They have power. They chose to be blue lives. That's not an issue. They don't have an issue. They're not getting killed left and right. Not by any other certain group. Like, they go into the job to keep their community safe, and, you know, sometimes they will get killed on the line. And that is very sad. That, you know, I wish they wouldn't be killed, you know, because these cops, they're our family and they're our friends. But this is not a problem. This is not the problem we are trying to solve right now. We are trying to solve the problem of Black people getting killed, of Black people facing all these injustices and inequalities. So there is no blue lives versus Black lives versus all lives matter. No, there should only be Black lives matter, because they're the ones that we need to address right now. That's one thing. And I guess on a last note, I don't want to make the video too long, but I want all my Black friends, family members, to share your stories. Share the racism that you have faced here in the US. Share any racism that you have experienced, to let others know that this is a problem. Because sometimes people are so naive and so stupid that they don't think this is a problem, that they've never seen this, that, you know, this has never been an issue or anything like that. Show them that this is a problem. Show them everything that you have been through, so we can start bringing change. You know, I also want you to make posts about, what do you need in your community? Do you need money? Do you need better education? Do you need more guidance into higher education? What do Black folks need to succeed? And start thinking about that, so we can start advocating for that, so we can start bringing more changes that you need. And you know, the only way we're gonna get things done is by Black Americans telling us their experience and telling us what they need, because we don't know what you all need. We don't know what you've been through. We don't know anything about your life, because we are not you and you. And in order for us to better help you and understand you, we need to hear your stories, and you need to start telling people your struggles. I have also seen throughout these past few days, a lot of friends are, you know, posting that they're unfriending back and forth, that people who don't believe what they believe in terms of like racism, like they don't accept racism and this and that. And I agree, I get it, like you shouldn't keep those people around. But I do urge you to educate them. Like, if there is someone that you disagree with on Facebook or whatever, like either privately message them, or, you know, speak on your story like I mentioned, but tell them why you believe in this movement, because their minds are so, like, they're in this little bubble, they don't understand, and you need to show them why they should, or you need to let them know why they should understand, you know, why this Black Lives Matter movement is so important. And you know, I think often people they're just ignorant sometimes. They just don't know. There's a lack of education. There's a lack of knowledge on your experience as a Black individual in America. And you know, sometimes we all get stuck in our little bubbles, in our little communities, in our little groups, and we never hear the outside world or others' perspective. And so I think it's important, and we need to share that to bring change. So when you go and friend someone, send them a message and be like, yo, this is what I've been through. Tell me this Black Lives Matter movement isn't important. You know, and we got to start changing their minds. And so if you can, keep them on your timeline and keep promoting your Black Lives Matter movement, and why protesting is important, and why funding these movements are important, and, you know, funding the Black community is important. Do it. Let them know. Annoy them that way. Maybe they'll friend you later. I don't know. But yeah, I think it's dangerous, a little dangerous when you unfriend them, because then they'll always stay in their little bubble and they'll never hear the other perspective. And you know, they can't change their minds that way. They can't learn more that way. Okay, also I did forget to address a couple topics that I did want to talk about as well. So I did want to talk about racism in the Latino community, and I think it's something that has been around also for forever. Just like even watching novelas, which are like Spanish soap operas, like characters that are, Spanish speaking, like they could be Mexican or whatever, but we always admire and look up to the blonde ones, the white ones, the ones who have colored eyes because they're pretty. And when there's ever like an Afro Latina in the novela, it's always like a maid, or like someone who cleans a house, someone who's thought less than. Like they're never anything important, and main roles are always given to these white Latinos. And so that already, from whatever age you're watching those, it's already influencing what you think of like darker people. Like darker people are never like looked up to or thought as pretty. Like it's always the white people that are thought to be better, and I know there is a lot of racism in the Latino community, and I've talked about it a little bit already, with my experiences growing up. Like we were always taught that like the average black person was just like dangerous and bad and like not educated and everything like that. And that needs to be changed. That needs to be addressed. And I think, maybe in the future, maybe I will make some videos in Spanish addressing these like the racism that there is among our Latino community, and how maybe we could bring change about that. And, I'm not too sure either how we can, because it's such a bigger problem. Like, I wouldn't even know how to go about it. And so if you have any ideas on that, and how we can start, or how I can help address racism in the Latino community, again, please feel free to let me know. And I also wanted to talk about, I guess, more so of the health care aspect, and how, I recently saw a post that a friend shared, and she said that, doctors are killing black women. It said like doctors are killing black women, but, we're not ready to talk about that. And that hit me so hard, because it's true. Like, we're not ready to talk about that. And, doctors are supposed to be people we look up to, but I've seen so many instances where, like, for example, in black women, they always think that they're over exaggerating and their pain isn't real. And so a doctor will brush it off. Like, if you tell your doctor that, oh, you've had like this horrible headache, and you're like not feeling well, and you're a person of color or maybe a black woman, they will not take you seriously. And that is something that we need to be addressed, and that is why I'm such an advocate of diversity in medicine, because if you are a black person, or if you are a Hispanic, you're not going to be as likely to turn down someone who's the same race as you, or someone who is the same color as you. Like, you're going to believe them, you're going to believe their pain, and you're going to want to give them better care than maybe someone who is more privileged, someone who is not their same race. They might not listen to them as well. And personally, in my clinic, like, not my clinic, but the clinic I work at, I've seen how Spanish-speaking Latina older women are like, oh, you guys give us such great care, like, you all are so nice. And this is at a clinic that everyone speaks Spanish, and everyone is nice. But like, oh, I went to this other doctor and he didn't even prescribe me medicine, or he prescribed me the wrong medicine, or it just didn't make me feel better. And you start to think of why that happened. Like, was it language barriers? Was it because they didn't care, because they didn't do a thorough enough like analysis of their problems or history, And it goes the same for black women and black people in general. Like, they might just not take your problem seriously, and they might just, just in general, not take you seriously. Versus that maybe if you had a black doctor who understood where you were coming from, who understood your culture, they would take better care of you, you know? But that's another fight I'm fighting. It's just, it does make me angry, and you know, I want to provide better care for all our minorities, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Hispanics, blacks, anyone and everyone. And there's a lot of work to be done. And I also wanted to address, you know, racism and its impact on health. And maybe it's something I could dive deeper in another video, but racism among women and among pregnant black women is dangerous. Like, black women have the highest rates of having premature babies, and there was several studies done on why black women have such high rates of having premature babies, and they found out and I believe there's a documentary on it too, and I can't remember the name, but they found out it was due to racism. All these women experience so much racism day to day that it affects their health. It makes them more anxious, it makes them more tense, and therefore making them go into delivery earlier than maybe if they were a white woman or someone with less stressors in their life. And they did this study where even this very successful black woman, I think she was a lawyer or something like that, like had a high paying job, you know, very successful. You know, they thought her baby would be born perfectly fine because she ate right, she had all the healthy foods, you know, money, she didn't have any like work stressors or like stressors on, you know, how am I going to pay my next bill type of thing. But she still had a premature baby, and they ended up tying it to racism. It was all this racism that, and like inequalities that she faced in her day-to-day life that also caused her to have premature baby. And so they found out it doesn't matter if you're the most successful black person, and it doesn't matter if you're like the poorest black person, like you will both all have premature babies because of the stressors you live in your day-to-day life. And so, you know, I can look more into that, and I could talk more about that in another video. But just think about that. Let it sit. And, you know, maybe people don't think racism is that important, and, you know, it doesn't really matter, like, just deal with it. No, it affects your health. And it can probably kill you earlier, too, honestly. Dealing with all that stress for continuously and for several years, it can take a toll on your health. And yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. I hope you all have a great day. I hope you all stay sane. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and please feel free also to like educate me, like send me more information on any of the movements that are going, or the Black Lives Matter movement that's going on, and you know how I can better help support our black communities.